Hi, I'd like to share my love for some of the books I read this year, so here's the favorite books of 2020 video. I won't include anything by Dostoevsky or Chekhov, just assume that I loved everything and you'll be very close to the truth. One of the most fascinating books I read this year was The Gullible Family. It's a vampire novel, although there are no actual vampires in it. It will suck your blood and drain you, so I can't actually recommend it to anyone because I don't want you to suffer. If you want to go through hell, this is the way. In the first half, there were some funny moments, so I thought maybe it's just very dark humor, but later I realized that it got darker and darker. You know how you can take your eyes off of something because it's so beautiful? This wasn't the case. I couldn't stop reading it because it was so ugly. And when I wasn't reading it, I was constantly thinking about it, so there was no escape. If I read the synopsis, I don't think that I would have given it a chance. It's mostly about hypocrisy. Everything is distorted: family values, morality, religion. It also gets worse and worse, and there's a lot of alcohol involved. It's a chronicle of the decline of a family, and because the number of characters is so small, we get to know most of them quite well. The matriarch is a tyrant. She is obsessed with wealth and power and sees her children as a burden. Obviously, she helps them, but she usually gives them the bare minimum. She only fulfills her obligations, does things in the name of the family, but she doesn't actually love them. She has a lot in common with the author's mother, and if this is the mother, you can picture the children. These characters are the pillars of this novel, and if it weren't for them, I don't think that the events would have affected me as much. There was nothing spectacular going on, yet I had goosebumps and my heart was pounding for most of the book. Everything felt so real and urgent that most thrillers pale in comparison. If you read it in translation, please tell me what you thought, because I think that this would be so difficult to translate. There were so many specific idioms and diminutives. There's a character called Yudushka, or Little Judas, and he is such a spider. The way he thinks and speaks, it's like a spiral or a fractal or something. I loved him and hated him at the same time. Another surprisingly good book was Charlotte Lovenshort by Selma Lagerlöf. I read the Lovenshort trilogy, and the second book, this one, was the best in my opinion. The first one is more on the fairy tale side, but it was enjoyable as well. It's about the curse of the ring, which was given to General Lovenshort by the king. It's stolen from the general's tomb, and all the owners of the ring suffer the consequences. The second book is less about the curse of the ring and more about the drama. Some people compare Lagerlöf's writing to Jane Austen. All I know is that she made me fall in love with the title character and absolutely hate her fiancé. The characters were three-dimensional, some parts of the book were hilarious, and although it wasn't perfect, I loved it. It was a quick and easy read, and I wish that I knew about this author when I was younger, because I realized that back then I would have loved her even more. I could read the next book every day without getting sick. I'm talking about The Little Tragedies by Pushkin. Each play exposes some human vice or weakness: greed, envy, pride, and fear. They're all based on old stories, just like the works of Molière and Shakespeare. The Stone Guest is another version of the Don Juan myth. The protagonist returns home after an exile. The king sent him away because he was worried that the family of the nobleman he murdered would seek revenge. Mozart and Salieri is about two different ways of looking at art. I won't spoil them for you. Mozart's talent comes from God, and Salieri thinks that Mozart isn't worthy of this gift. There's a line in the manuscript of Crime and Punishment that goes, "There's no happiness in comfort. Happiness is bought with suffering." Salieri has the same views. He is working for his happiness, while Mozart seems like a cosmic joke. If he could kill him, everything would go back to normal. He would correct the mistake of nature. The Miserly Knight is about a miserly father and a spendthrift son. The father is obsessed with his money because it gives him power. He has 6 chests full of gold. And what does he intend to do with them? Nothing. He just likes knowing that he has them. A Feast in Time of Plague was written during a cholera outbreak. In Pushkin's times, they believed that the plague or cholera was a punishment for one's sins. In the play, death is called a guest, a fatal priestess, a disease. We see desperate joy in the face of danger. Obviously, Pushkin was interested if one could see the meaning of life while being acutely aware of its inevitable end. I talked about these plays in my Pushkin Where to Start video. If you want something short and poetic, you should give them a try. I avoided reading the next book for a while, but only because it got so much praise. Last year, I finally read it, and oh my god, it was so beautifully written, and I could feel so much love. It's The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Usually, I don't like knowing about the main point the author is trying to make before reading the book itself. It's probably the only book on this list that I enjoy having read rather than the process of reading itself. It was tough. At times, I felt manipulated. Like, did you have to make it so painful? As a rule, I hate books where you're supposed to root for one character, where it's obvious that some characters are right and others are wrong. But in certain cases, there can be only one right opinion. What I loved the most about it was the honesty. Unlike other contemporary writers, Alice Walker isn't trying to prove how smart she is. She simply gives her characters the opportunity to be seen and heard, and this is so much more valuable. The Warden by Anthony Trollope was another surprisingly good book. If you read the synopsis though, you'll think that this is the most boring novel ever written, unless you're interested in church politics. It was actually funny and engaging, and I'll definitely read more Trollope this year. I know that some people like going blind into books, so I won't give you any details. All I can say is that it's a pretty short and nuanced Victorian novel that's difficult to advertise without spoiling half of it. Steppenwolf by Hermann Hesse is another book that I enjoyed last year, though I gave it 4 stars. Still, certain ideas stayed with me for a while. I'm so tempted to read more Goethe because his monologues here were incredible. The action takes place primarily in the protagonist's mind, so you'll probably spend hours or even days reflecting on your past experiences after reading it. The only thing I disliked about this book was the pretentiousness. The idea that people like Harry Heller, true intellectuals, are too deep for this shallow world. I didn't connect with it as much as I thought I would, but it was fun. If you like introspection and philosophy, it might be interesting, but don't expect it to change your life. The play Ivan Vasilievich by Mikhail Bulgakov is iconic. One of the most iconic Russian movies is based on it. It's called Ivan Vasilievich Back to the Future. But the play is better, in my opinion. It's about Tsar Ivan the Terrible, and it's a time travel comedy. I loved everything about it. The comparison between the Soviet Union and medieval Russia was a bold move on Bulgakov's part. It will take you no more than 40 minutes to read, but it will stay with you for a long time. I'm currently rereading Anna Karenina and Crime and Punishment, but here are some other books I'd like to read this year. And Quiet Flows the Dawn by Mikhail Sholokhov is one of those books that scare me. It has been compared to War and Peace because it's a Russian epic and it's huge. Another scary book is Ulysses by James Joyce. I read A Portrait of an Artist as a young man a while ago, and although it had some brilliant moments, it didn't speak to me. Ulysses should be better, at least I hope it is. The most intimidating book on my reading list is Don Quixote. I tried and failed to read it, but it's Dostoevsky's favorite book besides the New Testament, so I'm willing to give it another chance. I'd love to finish the series I started, Dune and the Accursed Kings, and I also want to read something by Clarice Lispector, Colette, Flannery O'Connor, John Irving, Ian Forster, etc., etc., etc. If you have any recommendations, please write them in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye!